Hello everyone, welcome to Full Moon Movies. Captain America The Winter Soldier is where the Marvel Cinematic Universe stopped being a comic book fantasy and became a mirror reflecting our own world. This is not a superhero film about aliens and destiny. In fact, it is about a political thriller on surveillance, control, and what happens when institutions meant to protect humanity start to quietly imprison it. The film transforms Steve Rogers from a patriotic symbol into a man forced to question everything he stands for, and in doing so, he becomes one of the most thematically rich and emotionally grounded entries in the MCU. From its opening scenes, we see Steve as a soldier out of time, not merely adjusting to modern technology, but questioning modern values. The America he now serves is no longer defined by liberty. It is driven by data, drones, and preemptive warfare. His conflict is internal. Does loyalty to a country mean obedience to its government or alliance to its principle? That question becomes the soul of the film. Opposite him is Nick Fury, a man who operates fully in shadows. Fury is not a villain, but he has become a believer in the idea that freedom must be controlled to survive. His Project Insight is a satellite weapons system designed to eliminate threats before they happen, an allegory for predictive policing and drone warfare. Now, it is Tony Stark's global protection dream taken to its paranoid extreme. For Steve, this is not defense, but it is a tyranny masked as safety. Now then there is Natasha Romanoff, the Black Widow, whose arc in this film is about identity. She has spent her entire life saving institutions, constantly reinventing herself to survive. But working alongside Steve, she is forced to confront a reality she has long avoided. If everything you serve is a lie, then who are you? Her emerging loyalty to Steve is not based on ideology, but on trust. She does not follow him because he is right, she follows him because he is honest. At the emotional core is Bucky Barnes, the Winter Soldier, a ghost from Steve's past, resurrected as an instrument of control. Bucky represents the ultimate tragedy, a good man turned into a weapon by those who believe in control over freedom. When Steve fights Bucky, he is not trying to win. In fact, he is trying to awaken. Their dynamic is the emotional backbone of the film. It is not about defeating an enemy, it's about saving a soul. When Steve drops his shield and tells Bucky, "I'm with you till the end of the line," it is not a line of a dialogue, it is a thesis of the film, loyalty to people over systems. Alexander Pierce, played with chilling restraint by Robert Redford, embodies the face of modern authoritarianism, calm, reasonable, charming. Now he is the type of leader who doesn't conquer nations by force, but convince them to surrender willingly. His Hydra is not about overt domination, it is about subtle assimilation. He speaks not of war, but of illusion, making people feel safe and they will give you everything. Now, when it comes to direction, action, and cinematographic craft, the Russo brothers grounded this film in realism. The hand-to-hand combat is brutal, fast, and tactile. No CGI, acrobatics, just fists, knives, and bone. The elevator fight scene is a masterclass in tension building. The highway ambush sequence feels ripped from a Bond film, but filmed with dynamic, shaky cam, not to obscure action, but to amplify chaos. Now, every action set piece is character-driven, not spectacle for the spectacle's sake, but consequences given in physical form. Cinematography uses the color tones steel, blues, and greys, reflecting a world where trust is evaporating. Henry Jackman's score mimics the mechanical terror of surveillance, industrial tones, distorted metal, and electronic pulses replacing heroic fanfares, which reinforcing the idea that this is not a time for triumph, it is a time for awakening. Now, when it comes to the themes and subtext, The Winter Soldier speaks directly to contemporary fears such as mass surveillance, weaponized data, the erosion of privacy, and the rise of unseen power structures. It asks, when nations can predict your thoughts, what does freedom even mean? Steve Rogers becomes the moral compass here, not just of the MCU, but of a generation questioning whether security has replaced liberty as the new god. The film's ideology is timeless, where the moment we surrender freedom in exchange for safety, we lose both. Now, when it comes to critics, upon its release, the film was widely praised as one of the Marvel's best, earning over $740 million at the box office. Critics applauded its grounded tone and bold storytelling, calling it a superhero film with something real to say. However, some argued that its political messaging was too on the nose, that it leaned too heavily on action tropes borrowed from spy thrillers, and that Bucky's character could have been explored more deeply beyond his role as a weapon. Even so, the film was recognized as the turning point where the Marvel took genius risks, moving beyond formula substance. Now, the 4K disc is a revelation here. The HDR brings a new level of depth to the film's shadows and lighting. The night scenes in Washington and the helicarrier finale benefit immensely from the contrast boost. The textures on costumes, especially Cape's stealth suit and the Winter Soldier's metal arm, are more defined than ever. Dolby Atmos enhances the soundstage, delivering thunderous bass during explosions and crisp clarity in quieter, character-driven scenes. The bonus features include an in-depth look at the choreography of fight scenes, featurettes on the political themes, and commentary tracks that reveal how the filmmakers intentionally pulled from the 1970s paranoia thrillers like The 3 Days of the Condor. In conclusion, Captain America: The Winter Soldier is not just a chapter in the Marvel saga, it is the film that evolved it. It challenged audiences to see heroes not as symbols of power, but as individuals forced to make impossible choices in a morally compromised world. It asks a question that echoes far beyond the MCU. When institutions become corrupt, is it patriotic to follow them or to resist them? In a time when algorithm tracks our thoughts and national security is defined by invisible codes, The Winter Soldier remains one of the most relevant films of the century. Its message is not that heroes save the world, but the world can only be saved when people refuse to surrender their soul to systems that build to control them. Now, this is not a story about a man in a suit. This is a story about a man who remembers what freedom means and is willing to stand alone to protect it. Now, this movie is a must-watch.